Aqui está a versão em inglês adaptada para a audiência americana sem propaganda e sem nome do canal. There is a character in Kung Fu Panda that almost everyone overlooks. It is not Tai Lung, it is not Kai. It is that quiet, gentle warrior who always stays in the background while everyone else gets to shine. Viper. And today, I'm going to show you that she carries one of the heaviest and most disturbing stories in the entire franchise. A story that begins with a child rejected by her own father, moves through a trauma that was never truly resolved, and ends with a dark theory that will permanently change the way you see this character. So, if you think you know Viper, I promise you that by the end of this video you will realize you never really did. Let us start at the beginning, and the beginning is far more painful than the films let on at the surface. Viper is the daughter of the great Master Viper, a legendary warrior who served as the protector of his village. And when I say legendary, I am not exaggerating. Her father possessed a combat technique called the Poison Fang technique, so powerful and so feared that a single strike from his venomous fangs was enough to defeat any enemy. With this technique, he had taken down 15 guerrilla warriors and one medium-sized crocodile. His name was known throughout the entire region as the untouchable protector of the village. That was the family legacy, passed down from generation to generation within the Viper clan. And when he learned he was going to have a daughter, he was completely overwhelmed with joy. An heir, someone to carry the legacy forward, someone who would one day protect the village the same way he had. But then Viper was born, and when her father looked into the mouth of his newborn daughter, he realized she had no fangs. None at all. A snake, the direct descendant of the greatest warrior in the Viper clan, with no fangs, no venom, no tool that was the center of everything the family represented. And that is where the trauma begins. Her father was not explicitly cruel. He loved his daughter. That much is clear. But he simply did not know what to do with her. How do you pass down a family legacy to someone who does not have the physical ability that legacy requires? He fell into a deep sadness, and Viper grew up watching her father be depressed, knowing that she was the reason for that sadness. Think about what that does to a child. Your father is not sad because you did something wrong. He is sad because you were born, because you exist the way you exist. And Viper, with all the sensitivity she displays throughout the films, did what any loving child would do in that situation. She tried to cheer her father up. She started dancing with a ribbon to make him smile, and it worked sometimes. Her father would smile a little, but never fully, never genuinely. So Viper kept going, kept dancing, kept practicing, kept trying to be enough, trying to fill the void that the absence of venom had created. And over time, she became the best ribbon dancer in the entire village. Not because she wanted to be a dancer, but because she wanted her father's smile. That is incredibly heavy when you stop to think about it. An entire childhood, an entire life of effort, built on top of a need for approval that was never truly and freely given. She was not developing a talent out of love for the talent itself. She was developing a talent as emotional currency, to buy the affection that should have been free, to earn the smile that any parent should give any child simply for existing. And that pattern she developed in childhood, that pattern of working endlessly to earn the approval of someone who cannot give you the recognition you need, that pattern shows up again and again in her adult life. And that is exactly what the dark theory explores with a level of precision that is genuinely unsettling. So let us keep going, because the story is just getting started. Viper was still young when the Moon Festival arrived in her village, an important celebration, a moment of joy for the whole community. And that night, a bandit gorilla appeared to challenge the great Master Viper. This gorilla was dangerous, and he wore special armor specifically designed to resist the Poison Fang technique, venom-proof armor. So when Viper's father attacked using his legendary technique, his fangs shattered against the gorilla's armor. The untouchable protector of the village was there on the ground, weakened, unable to use the only weapon he had trusted his entire life. And Viper, that shy child, who had not even gone to the festival because she was embarrassed about who she was, heard that her father was in danger. And she went. No fangs, no venom, no family inheritance. She went anyway. And she defeated the gorilla. Not with brute strength, not with venom, but with her ribbon. She wrapped the gorilla up, confused him with the speed of her movements, and restrained him with the very ribbon she had spent years learning to manipulate just to pull a smile out of her father. The tool she had developed to earn approval became a lethal weapon. And then comes the most emotionally charged moment in her entire story. Her father looked at his daughter after years of sadness, after years of feeling that she could not carry the family legacy, and gave his first genuine smile in years. Not a polite smile, a smile of real pride. He understood in that moment that his daughter did not need his fangs. She had created her own path. The family legacy was safe, just not in any way he had ever imagined. It is a beautiful scene. And it is also the starting point for the darkest theory I have ever heard about this character. Because here is the question this theory asks. What happens to a child who only receives approval after proving she is useful? Think about it carefully. Viper did not receive unconditional love from her father from birth. She received sadness and distance. And her father's genuine smile arrived at a very specific moment, after a very specific demonstration of worth. She saved him. She was useful in a way that mattered to him. And then, she was accepted. That creates a very dangerous equation in a child's mind. Love equals usefulness. Acceptance equals performance. You are not loved because you exist. You are loved because you do something the other person needs. And whoever grows up with that equation internalizes it into adulthood in a very specific way. Now look at adult Viper in the films. What is her role within the Furious Five? She is the empath, the caretaker, the one who welcomes. When Poe arrives in the first film and everyone is angry, it is Viper who goes to him, offers him food, makes him feel welcome. When the atmosphere gets tense before a battle, she is the one keeping the group together. When someone is struggling, she is the first to notice. That sounds beautiful. And it is, in part. But the theory proposes a darker layer underneath all of that. She is not this way simply because she is a good person. She is this way because she learned very early that being useful, being needed, being the one who takes care of everyone is the way to make sure you will never be abandoned. There is a name for this. It is called anxious compliance. It is when a person's kindness does not come from a place of inner peace, but from a deep fear of rejection. The person becomes so agreeable, so helpful, so available that no one ever has a reason to push them away because she never disagrees, never takes up too much space, never disturbs the balance. She molds herself into whatever the environment needs from her. And Viper has every element of someone who developed exactly that pattern. She grew up being the snake, without venom, in a clan of venomous snakes. Her worth was questioned from birth. And she developed an extraordinary ability to become what others need as an emotional survival mechanism. Now let me show you where this shows up in the films in a way you have probably never noticed. In the first Kung Fu Panda, when the entire group begins to question Oogway's choice, when Tigress is furious, when everyone is uncomfortable with Poe's presence, who is it that smooths things over? Viper. She does not openly side with Poe. She does not challenge Tigress. She stays in the middle, softening the edges, trying to keep everyone okay. She does not take a side. And this happens again and again. In every moment of tension within the group, Viper is the shock absorber. She is the social glue that holds everyone together when personality differences threaten to tear the group apart. And the theory asks, but who is Viper's glue? Who holds her together when things get genuinely hard for her? Because in the films, we never see that. We never see anyone asking Viper how she is actually doing, and she never volunteers that information. Think about how many people you know like this. The person in every group who always knows how everyone else is doing, who always has the right words for each person, who is always available to listen and support. And when you pause to ask how they are doing, they smile and say, they are fine. They are always fine, never struggling, never needing anything. And you accept that answer because they seem so stable that doubting it would almost feel like an insult. But that constant stability, that infinite availability, that well-being that never wavers, that is not emotional health. That is armor. That is the wall the person built. so they never have to show that they break sometimes too. Because showing that you break is risky. Showing that you need something is risky. And Viper learned from a very young age that emotional risk is expensive. In the second film, when the group discovers that Lord Shen has a weapon capable of destroying Kung Fu forever, each warrior reacts differently. Po falls into internal collapse. Tigress becomes furious. And Viper? She stays calm, almost impassive. And the theory says that calm is not serenity. It is dissociation. It is someone who learned to shut off access to their own emotions because for a long time, her emotions were a burden, not a resource. When you grow up in an environment where your emotions make others uncomfortable, you learn to put them away. You learn that feeling too loudly is inconvenient, that crying in front of someone is a burden to place on them, that the best version of you, the version that is easiest to love, is the calm and stable version that does not need anything. And so you become exactly that version, so completely that sometimes you yourself forget there is another one. There is another detail the theory uses as a central piece of evidence, and this is one that goes completely unnoticed most of the time. The flowers. Viper wears lotus flowers on her head in every single scene, in every film, always. They are as fixed a part of her visual identity as the ribbon she carries on her body. And the theory proposes that these flowers are not decorative. They are an identity anchor. They are the symbol of who she is, or more accurately, of who she had to become in order to be accepted. The dancer, the elegant warrior, the snake who does not need venom because she has grace. This is something people with similar histories actually do in real life. We hold on to and display the symbols of the version of ourselves that was finally accepted. Because without those symbols, there is a quiet fear that you might go back to being the child who was not enough. Viper's flowers, according to this theory, exist on her body as a constant reminder. You proved your worth. You belong here. But here the theory gets even more unsettling, because there is a very important difference between overcoming a trauma and learning to function despite it. And Viper seems to have done the second thing. Look at the behavioral pattern the theory observes across all three films. She never appears vulnerable, never asks for help, never complains, never puts her own needs on the table clearly. She is always available, always stable, always present to deal with everyone else's problems. And that, which looks like strength, may actually be the clearest sign of someone who does not allow herself to be fully human because she is afraid of what happens when you show weakness. There is a specific scene in the first film the theory highlights carefully. When the Furious Five decide to go after Tai Lung against Shifu's orders, Viper goes along, without questioning, without hesitating. She follows the group, and during the battle against Tai Lung, she is among the first to be defeated. Tai Lung paralyzes her with a nerve strike, and her reaction is not anger, not despair. It is almost a quiet acceptance, as if somewhere deep inside her there is a conviction that she was the weakest link, that when things got truly serious, she would be the first to fall. That might be reading too deeply into an action sequence, but the theory connects it to the broader pattern. Viper never fully believes in her own worth. She performs confidence. She executes with excellence. But deep down, the snake without fangs is still there, whispering that when things get genuinely heavy, someone more capable will need to take over. Think about how this plays out in real life. People who grew up having their worth questioned frequently develop what is commonly called imposter syndrome. They are extremely competent. They reach impressive places. They are recognized by others as excellent at what they do. But internally, they feel like a fraud. Like at some point, someone is going to figure out they are not as good as they appear. That the success was luck, circumstance, timing, not real merit. And Viper has exactly the profile of someone who would carry that. She did not arrive at the Furious Five through the traditional route, not as the heir to a legacy of power. She arrived as the dancer who learned to fight, as the snake who compensated for the absence of venom with agility. And no matter how impressive that is, there is always that voice reminding her, but you do not have what you were supposed to have. You got here through an alternative route. And alternative, for someone who grew up being the exception that always needed justification, never quite sounds like enough. Now let me move to the most speculative part of the theory, but also the most compelling. Viper has no venom. She never will. and she overcame that in an extraordinary way. But the theory asks, did she actually overcome it, or did she learn to perform the overcoming? There is a detail the theory uses here in an interesting way. In some later appearances in the franchise, particularly in the animated television series, Viper appears with small rudimentary fangs that had grown over time. Fangs without venom, without real offensive function, but fangs. And the theory uses this in a deeply unsettling way. What if her body was trying, literally, to become what her father always expected her to be? As if there were a part of her that never stopped wanting to be the venomous snake the clan always valued. That sounds like a stretch as biology, but as psychological metaphor, it is devastating. How many people do you know who spent their entire lives trying in some way to become the person a parent expected them to be? Adopting values that are not their own, choosing paths that are not their own, carrying an identity that was built to satisfy someone who may not even be present in their daily life anymore, but who still occupies an enormous amount of space inside their head. Viper was accepted as a ribbon dancer, as an elegant warrior, as the empath of the Furious Five. But somewhere deep inside her, is there still the snake who just wanted fangs? Who wanted to not have to prove anything to anyone? Who wanted to be loved simply for existing, without a performance, without demonstrated usefulness, without the victory that has to come before the smile? That is one of the heaviest questions the theory raises, and it is a question that resonates far beyond animation. There is one more layer I need to explore before closing this analysis, and it is the darkest one of all. The theory observes that Viper has a very specific personality profile. She is adaptable. She can read the environment and become what it needs. She never disrupts. She never creates unnecessary friction. She is the person everyone wants around. And that is where the theory takes its sharpest turn. That combination of skills, that ability to adapt, to read others' needs, to never be a visible threat, to always appear safe and trustworthy, is also the profile of someone who could be incredibly dangerous under different circumstances. Think about it. A person who learned from childhood that she needs to be whatever the environment demands, who developed an extraordinary ability to become useful and necessary to any group, who never shows what she is actually feeling, who always seems calm even when processing something heavy. That is an incredibly loyal and remarkable warrior when she is on your side. But it is also exactly the profile of someone who could betray without anyone seeing it coming. The theory is not saying Viper is a hidden villain. She clearly is not. But it raises this disturbing question. What would have happened to all that adaptability, all that talent for becoming what the environment needs, if her father had never smiled? If the Furious Five had reinforced the idea that she was not enough? If Shifu had treated her the same way he treated Tigress for years, like a weapon instead of a person? The only difference between the Viper we know and a far darker version of her may have been the timing of a single smile on a festival night. And there is an irony the theory highlights with real precision. Her name. Vipers in many cultures are associated not only with power, but with silent betrayal. With the threat you do not see coming. With the danger hiding underneath a calm exterior. A Viper does not attack with brute force. She waits. She positions herself. And when she strikes, you do not have time to react. Was that name chosen simply because she is a snake? Or did the creators leave a darker layer hidden inside the character's own name, a hint at what she could have become if love had arrived too late? Now, I want to close with what I think is the saddest observation in this entire analysis. In the third film, Kung Fu Panda 3, Viper has no central arc. She is there. She contributes in battles. She is part of the group, but she does not have a moment that is genuinely hers. She fades into the background, while Po, Kai, Tigress, and Shifu all have their arcs developed. And the theory uses this in a way that goes beyond script analysis. It says that Viper ended up in the background of the third film because she herself never learned to take up space. That even within the narrative, she repeats the pattern of her life. She fades. She lets others shine. She makes sure everyone is okay. She stays available, but never demands presence. And the writers themselves, perhaps without even realizing it, mirrored that in the way they developed the character across the franchise. It is as if Viper on some level told her own creators, "Do not worry about me. Take care of the others. I will be fine." And that is devastating when you sit with it. Here is a character with one of the richest and most emotionally complex origin stories in the entire Kung Fu Panda franchise. A snake without venom who became a warrior through sheer determination. A child who grew up being the involuntary cause of her father's sadness and still found a way to prove her worth. A character with a realistic and profound emotional trauma that genuinely resonates with real human experiences. And yet, she spent 3 films being support, being the background empath, being the one who takes care of everyone but is never taken care of in return, being exactly what the environment needed her to be and nothing beyond that. There is a question the theory leaves completely open, and I think it is the most important one of all. In any future continuation of the franchise, will we finally see Viper have to confront who she is when she is not being useful to someone, when there is no one to mediate, no one to comfort, no conflict to soften? What is left of Viper when she is not serving an external purpose? When the environment needs nothing from her and she has to simply exist for herself? That is the darkest question of all, because many real people live their entire lives without ever knowing the answer to their own version of that question. And it is unsettling and at the same time remarkably honest to see that reflected in an animated character with such precision. Before I wrap up, I want to bring some balance to all of this, because it is very easy to look at Viper through the lens of this theory and only see the wound, only the trauma, only the shadow. But her story is also genuinely a story of extraordinary resilience. She was born without the power that was central to her family's identity. She was judged for it before she ever had a chance to prove herself. She grew up watching the sadness she caused her father simply by existing the way she existed. And still, she became one of the most skilled warriors in the animated world. She created her own path. She transformed a dancing tool into a weapon. She transformed rejection into fuel. She transformed the absence of venom into an absence no one noticed anymore, because she filled that space with something no venomous snake had. And that is real. That matters. That does not disappear just because a dark theory exists alongside it. The dark theory does not deny her resilience. It only reminds us that resilience and healing are different things. You can reach the top still carrying wounds that never quite healed properly. You can be an extraordinary warrior and still have that deep place inside that keeps asking whether you are truly enough. You can take care of the entire world and still not know exactly how to take care of yourself when the night arrives and no one needs anything from you anymore. And maybe Viper is one of the most honest examples animation has ever created of exactly that. Perhaps unintentionally, but real in a way that hits deeply. Kung Fu Panda has always been a franchise that talks about trauma in a way most adults take years to fully understand. The panda who never believed he was enough just as he was. The tigress raised to be a weapon instead of a daughter, who learned to suppress everything human about herself because humanity meant weakness in the only home she knew. Kai consumed by being forgotten, by the desperate need to be remembered after decades of being erased from history. And Viper, who learned from childhood that love has to be earned through usefulness, and who may never have fully stopped believing that, even after decades as a respected warrior. These stories matter because we see ourselves in them. We recognize the pain of these characters because we have felt something similar at some point. We have been the child who tried to perform in just the right way to pull a smile out of someone who could not give that smile freely. We have been the adult who stayed in the background, making sure everyone else was okay before checking whether we ourselves were. We have been the person who only felt accepted after proving they were useful, that they were needed, that they deserved to be there because they had done something to justify their presence. And that is exactly why it is worth continuing to look deeply at these animated films, because they have far more to say than they appear to on the first watch. They speak about things we do not have easy words for, and they do it in a way that reaches us in places that direct conversation sometimes cannot. If this video made you think, if you enjoyed going this deep into Viper's story, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you have not done that yet. Thank you for staying until the end. See you in the next one.